Hello everyone and welcome, my name is Simon and we are the Whales of Wall Street. Today we're going to be looking at a token called CAT, K-A-T, which is part of Kambria. So without further ado, let's go straight into this one. So as previous videos entail, you may figure out that I'm very interested in IoT, AI and robotics and things like this. Kambria is one of those. It's something I've been invested in for a few months now personally. And I just find this one particularly interesting because it's more focused on the robotics side rather than autonomous vehicles and drones and things like where we've covered with the likes of Fetch and other platforms recently. But this one in particular, similar to like IoTX, which is a video I'll put a link to at the end of this one, but more focused on robotics as I've mentioned. So one of the key aspects of this is using blockchain to allow people to collaborate and come together essentially to make decisions, voting decisions or collaborations on improving the scale up of robotics from the consumer level. So we're entering an interesting period of time in humanity, of course, where a lot of things are becoming automated and robotic. Of course, in the next sort of 10 to 40, 50 years, we're going to see a large scale output of consumer robotics, whether that be in healthcare, assistance and things like this, as well as in stores. It sounds a bit horrible really because we're talking about obviously more and more people losing jobs potentially, but this is the way the world is going, of course, and robotics in order to work need to work on a specific ecosystem, and this is the kind of thing that Kambria is trying to push. Bringing partnerships like governments and universities, etc., leading top people in their fields of robotics and AI to challenge this theory and bring these technologies together. So the one thing I like about CAT is just the tokenomics and their game kind of approach to this, in terms of how they're burning the tokens and using the tokens to encourage and build that ecosystem together. It brings in people who want to learn interesting things about the development side, or your corporation looking to develop AI and robotic technology. It really brings this out, and I do actually really like the education side as well. This is like trying to basically push the next generation of people, whether that be in universities or lower school levels at this moment in time, to learn more about robotics, and in particular the link between the blockchain and how that interacts together moving forward as well. So yeah, for me this one's a really interesting one. I like the history of it. I won't go into massive detail of this white paper, of course, because it's absolutely massive bunch of pages. But yeah, typically, key points to pull out is just around sort of like the speed in which they're trying to bring everyone together in this sector and try and improve and increase the speed at which the robotics or consumer robotics is coming to play in the real world. So CAT, as I mentioned, being the token, you will see this used as kind of like the DAO system that we've spoken about before, voting on projects and things like this, as well as improving the systems that they're trying to build for these robotic ecosystems. And as well, there is some burning of the tokens as well, which we'll go on to in a second too. But I really like this white paper. I did read the first sort of 10-15 pages. I will finish it. But yeah, it's very much on historical data and why they're doing it, and what they believe the challenge is and how they're going to bring it to life. And I think that's really important. There's a lot of projects out there like promise things and do this and that with no like real structure and reason behind it. And I think that this white paper in particular and the homepage and all the information on their website really brings it to life and encourages what is the problem out there, what is the challenge, and what is the future we're trying to achieve. And these guys are on their way to doing it. It's not a very well known project or a company at the moment. The reason I found it was originally on Crypto Slate under the AI sector, and it has recently dropped off, but that's because things like Fetch, IoTX, etc. are making waves with big announcements recently. But this one for me is one under the radar, and it's one to potentially think about. Obviously, it's not financial advice, but I'm really interested in all the information they're putting together. Some of it's well over my head. I'm not an engineer, or I have built a couple of robots when I was younger, little ones from like magazines and stuff, so I do get some of it. But yeah, a lot of it's very technical. So yeah, just have a look at that. And yeah, another point about some educational training and things like this, where they can offer you tokens in kind of like what Coinbase do, as a reward program. So there's part of the tokenomics and gaming aspect as well. And they've got a lot of really cool partnerships going at the moment. So it's particularly in the education sector under things like universities, but also things like this. Matic, obviously Polygon, absolutely huge project and company. We'll do a video on those separately for sure very soon. But very recent information from April, obviously a couple months ago now. But the fact that they're sort of layering this with them is a fantastic opportunity. But yeah, just keep an eye on all of this as well. Kambria launching with a kite situation at the moment, which is where the burning of tokens is going in the next few days, I think. So we'll go on to that in a second as well. But yeah, I mean, this kind of partnership is fantastic, and certainly worth looking out on the Kambria Twitter page to see any more developments in potential partnerships and things as well moving forward. So let's keep an eye on that, and I'll keep updating on this project as we go along, of course, as well. But to see it linked with the likes of Matic is phenomenal. As I mentioned, keep an eye on their Twitter. It's a really good source, of course, for any information and updates from any project really, but in particular this one is what we're talking about, of course, at the moment. But here, for example, 20 million cat tokens have been burnt very recently using that Ethereum platform to do so, and in relating to this kite token here. So I'll just go into a bit more detail on that in a video later towards the end of this week. I think there's quite an interesting movement of this. But that does lead me to my whole point as well about this video. The reason I'm pulling this out now, not just because I believe in it, and like I said, it's not financial advice. I'm not saying you should or shouldn't go after these kind of assets, but it's certainly something to think about because it's a fantastic project and sector. But I'm pulling it out at the moment because of this kind of news coming out has kind of pushed really an over 50% rise in the last 24 hours, and certainly the last few days have been a progressive increase. So it's something to keep an eye on. These sort of movements here are kind of funny because a lot of people jump in now when, of course, there should always be caution and a lot of research put into there. And, justifying, in terms of historic data as well as forthcoming data, whether this is a good time or a bad time to jump in or not is entirely up to you, of course. Do your own research and make your own decisions. But for me, it's, of course, I use things like RSI to determine that situation. The volumes are quite high, albeit not in their millions like they do in other projects, but there's significant interest in this in the last few days. So it's really interesting to keep an eye out for. And one thing I haven't done in my previous videos, I do apologise more and more, is where you can get this token. So I always get asked in comments and things, where can you actually buy this thing? So just for me, I get it currently on KuCoin, hence why I've got that exchange open at the moment. There's a couple of other exchanges like Hotbit, and you can get it on the new Binance Dex platform as well. But for me, KuCoin is just a nice and easy one, personally, that I like to use. But yeah, this is quite interesting. Obviously, it's nowhere near really the heights of what, or I say the heights. We're talking about like one and a bit cent, of course. But for me, this project has future value to me. I'm not one to sit here and this year personally and being trading this in particularly throughout this year. It's more for the future for me, where robotics, AI is going. I've always talked about this in these kind of related videos. Please do check those out. Like IOTX, Fetch AI, Capacity, all of these AI related algorithm ones, for me are future ones. And I can see, just from the development of technology and the way AI is going, and being in AI in my role and job in the real world, as it were, I can see that kind of future, how it's developing. And these kind of projects are the ones that are going to really push it. And that's why I'm invested in them personally. So other than that, I did mention earlier about CryptoSlate. It's a website I use. I've mentioned it before. You don't have to pay for this. I think you can buy some memberships if you want a bigger detailed list. But for me, it was about finding Not just by coin categories, but I like to look into sectors as well, so I can define which sectors are more interesting to me. This is where actually, ironically, I found Cat originally. It's dropped off the top 10 as I mentioned, but I'm not really fussed about that. It's very early days for that project and program, but you see a couple of others that you've probably recognised, like Fetch on here as well, and a couple of others. So I just recommend this website really if you're interested in finding things that you have an actual passion or interest in, or perhaps you're educated in or interested in terms of you work in that sector. It's a really good site to use to actually go, actually I can kind of relate to this project. And that's why I always say, like, invest in what you know and do your own research, because those two things are really fundamental. You can follow the sheep of everyone else and go for the big ones, and of course I do some of that. I'm not going to be stupid and miss out on things that have massive traction already or very much talked about, and have good fundamental value. But I'm also interested in the ones that I know about, and that's why I'm trying to do these videos, of course, to bring that kind of attention to some of these that you perhaps haven't heard of before. Gems, if you like, and like I said, it's totally your decision. There's not financial advice, but it's just something that I'm personally invested in and something I have a personal very big interest in, just because I see the development of it moving forward. So hope you found this a bit interesting. Please do like and subscribe to the channel, and please press the little bell button next to subscribe as well. That makes sure you get all the notifications of our wonderful videos as they come out each day or every other day. And I hope you found it interesting, and I hope that we see you and Cat or Kambria on the moon. Take care, everyone.